Good evening, short story writers. Today's prompt is from the news and it's about the colonization of Mars and a lot of other tech things. There's a lot of speculation going on about how things could go. So, one of the things that I can see happening will be robot companions. And this is inspired by the news that holograms are going to be possible fairly soon, and artificial intelligence is getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So let's assume there's a society where robot companions are the norm and they become affordable for absolutely everybody. If you want one, they cost about the same as a car. So when I say absolutely everybody, you know what I mean. And you can get second-hand ones as well. People trade them in and you can buy second-hand ones. Why not? There would be a second-hand market. That's a subplot all of its own, isn't it? Anyway, that is it. Your short story prompt is somebody gets their first robot companion home, and it could be a slightly longer story. It could be, say, in 3 parts. Day 1, after a year, I don't know, maybe it becomes a lifelong companion. What do you think the effect on the society in your story would be? Because I think people will stop getting married or even dating. They'll just say, I want a robot with this kind of personality and these male, female, or none of the above characteristics. They may opt for robot cats and robot dogs instead. Who knows? And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that these robots they're more like androids. They are indistinguishable from humans. They've got realistic coverings that feel like flesh. And as the person gets older, they age with him or her. Okay, right, so straight away you can see the human interest thing. Do machines replace humans? Do cats replace humans? Do dogs replace humans? Budgerigars, fish, reptiles? Are all humans 100% fully functional emotionally? What about your psychopaths and your sociopaths and your narcissists? Are they all quite there when it comes to empathizing? Would a robot do a better job if it were programmed? So that could be your literary take on it. Maybe a day in the life of somebody. Let's set this, say, just 10 years in the future, because I think it's probably a lot closer than we are aware of. Comedy. Well, you're the comedy writer. I'm pretty sure that something could go hilariously wrong. Like somebody coming into contact with a real human being, assuming it was a robot, and all sorts of consequences arising. The real person turns out somebody who bears a striking resemblance to said robot. Romance kind of being done in Her and the Millennium. I don't know whether he falls in love or not, but that's based on Isaac Asimov story anyway. Well, not that I'm dissing either of those things. It's just that the Isaac Asimov story is that the human, the robot, over a period of 200, 300 years, oh, hang on, it's a millennium man, it must be 1,000 years, eventually fights to be accepted as a human being with full human rights, such as they will be 1,000 years from now. Crime, mystery, thrillers. Well, you've got a robot. Whew. How do laws apply to robots? Crimes are committed by humans, aren't they? So do you confer human rights on a robot and then take it to trial? Do you just automatically dismantle the machine? But if it's capable of passing the Turing test and its emotional equivalent, more human than human. Who knows? Could be interesting, that. And there'd be grey area as well before anybody says, no, it's just a machine. But what about when you get somebody who is like the axe and the handle, the axe head and the handle? So you get somebody who's in an accident and they become partly bionic, and then as time goes by and technology becomes more and more sophisticated, various bits of them are replaced, including maybe the equivalent of a positronic brain to keep them alive. Maybe the 1% can afford all this stuff. And at what point do they become more machine than person? What about if it was down to just, say, a little finger? The rest of them was machinery, but in very human guise. Would that person, under that set of laws, be entitled to a trial as a human being when all that remains of them is their little finger? Or would they have to be treated as machinery? And where would the line be? Philosophical points. There's your sci-fi and your surreal and your fantasy, and up to a point possibly your horror. Because what if the robot is totally horrified at some of the things that human beings have done in the past, and decides that actually, as this is a point of another Isaac Asimov story about the laws of robotics, decides that it in fact is more human than human and therefore should have better rights. Biographical. Well, if you want to write a biographical, you could write a biography of a robot. But you'd have to try and see it from a robotic point of view and not from a human point of view, because all stories are about human beings. Where are we? 6 hours, 7 minutes. All right. Surreal, horror, biographical, political. Well, what about if robots start running? Ooh, I think they do a much better job as well, don't you? Particularly if we might return to this tomorrow, actually. Yes, we will return to this tomorrow because there are anthropological considerations to artificial intelligences. Okay, historical. Oh, actually, no. There's a historical precedent for this, and that is the granting of companies the status of a person, so they have the same rights as people in America in certain situations. And that's an entity which is technically, if all the people who own it die, it still exists and it would still have to be treated as a person. So there's a precedent, and I could see some lawyer using that to get robots person status, especially if the robot set up a company. Ooh, I might write that story myself. Okay, right. Only might. I'm a busy person. What with I write music as well, and music is my first. Oh, don't music is my first love. Although I do like fiction. Okay, short story writers. Hope you get some short story inspirations from that, and that your creative juices are flowing now. So happy writing. Don't forget, NaNoWriMo is coming up soon, and I'll just touch upon it now, but we'll have a full episode about it. But there's absolutely no reason why you've got to write a novel. Is there? Is there? No, there isn't. And in fact, I think you probably get to the finishing line more easily if you actually broke it up into a series of short stories. All right, good night.